Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of TV Thursday. This week, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite shows of all time, The Office. Specifically, Season 1 of The Office. I've got a lot of friends who love The Office, and some of us were tweeting about it a few weeks ago, and I basically used that as an opportunity to just kind of decide to go ahead and throw that show on while I was working on other things and just kind of have it playing on in the background. But I did what I usually do when I kind of dive back into a watch through of The Office. I skipped Season 1 because it, and one of my other favorite shows of all time, Parks and Rec, both of those shows had a weird, unique 6-episode first season, and in both cases, it's from a simpler time in NBC television where they could take more risks and they could pilot a show with 6 episodes, and so they would come on like the end of a normal sitcom season, and basically use that first 6-episode season to maybe test out some things and basically give the main premise of a show. It's pretty common in television that the first 6 episodes of a show will just kind of repeat the premise. If you go and watch most, especially sitcoms, go and watch the first 6 episodes of most sitcoms, and you'll see kind of the formula is pretty stock and standard there for those first 6 episodes, because they really want to try and drill it into your head. This is what the show's about. These are who these characters are. This is the relationships. This is the dynamic. This is what to expect. And then, once you get those 6 episodes done, they kind of move on to other things. With The Office and with Parks and Rec, you kind of had that, but they were their own self-contained seasons. It wasn't the first 6 episodes of a 22-episode season. It was like these weird little things. And in both cases, with both The Office and Parks and Rec, I think you had the kernels of an idea in that first 6-episode season, but then when the teams went off and kind of reconvened in a writer's room and figured, okay, what worked, what didn't work, they were able to really hone in on the characters and the premise in seasons 2 moving forward. The first season of Parks and Rec, for example, Leslie Knope is a much more bumbling idiot character. She's much more like Michael Scott is here, and the team around her kind of like treats her like a bumbling idiot. And in season 2 of Parks and Rec, you have them kind of recalibrate, and they really play more that Leslie Knope is just over enthusiastic and always so excited and thinks the best of everybody, and her team kind of, while they make fun of her a little bit, they at least kind of get behind that central tenet of the show. In The Office, what you had in this first season, most notably, of course, you had the first episode being almost a shot-for-shot remake of the first episode of the British version of The Office that Ricky Gervais had kind of created and shot him really to stardom. You have the same characters, same plot line, and it wasn't until maybe the other few episodes of that season that they really kind of branched out and figured out how to make the show work for the American audience. The first season here suffers from a lot of the characters and the background ensemble not being formed yet. They don't really have a sense of who these people are outside of, like, Stanley's the black guy, Kelly's the Indian woman, Meredith here works in accounting, but later on she'll be like no, she's not quality assurance. Creed's quality assurance. I don't even remember what she does later on, but her job does change after this first season. They kind of cement that you've got like the 3 accountants, and Meredith is not one of them. So it's a learning season for everybody, and it's one of those that they really, in season 2, they really hit their stride with the show, and that's where, like, season 2 kicks off with the Dundies episode, and boom, hits the ground running. Here, in the first season of The Office, Diversity Day is probably like the standout episode, and certainly one of the all-time greats of the series, but everything else in there just kind of, does, like, it introduces things that later seasons will do better. You have kind of the pilot, of course, setting up the plot of everything and the idea of following this simple, bumbling idiot of a boss in his, in his mundane office and kind of the quirks of that. You have basketball here, which kind of really shows maybe the lengths of Jim's crush on Pam and how competitive he is with Roy. We do get to see that, as well as it also introduces like the warehouse crew to the Office verse. You have the healthcare episode, really showcasing Dwight and what he will do if he gets even just like a kernel of power. You have the Alliance, which does a great job of setting up really the dynamic between Jim and Dwight and kind of their back and forth and how Jim is going to repeatedly kind of prank against him throughout the series. And you have the Hot Girl, which introduces Amy Adams before she broke into the industry. Really, it's one of her first roles, and you have her basically as like the purse salesman that Michael and Dwight are trying to woo and win over in the office, but really Jim kind of comes across and lays on the charm that he lays on with Pam, but because the hot girl Katie is not taken, he kind of strikes up and starts the relationship with her to set up kind of a little bit of like, oh, we get to see it from Pam too, that there's jealousy there, that it's not just Jim falling for Pam. There is kind of a reciprocation there, even if they can't really openly talk about it in the show. So really simple first 6-episode season. Like I said, Diversity Day and Larry Wilmore coming in, and that's where we get to see really the big showcase of the conference room meeting that becomes like such a standard for the series. And that's really the big one that I think kind of makes it out of the formula here of the first 6 episodes and could be an episode that fits in some other season. Certainly is one of the top 10, 15, 20 episodes of the series. I think it's at home among there. But all in all, I do typically, when I'm watching through, skip the first season here. I did when I started this rewatch. I skipped straight into season 2 and just kind of watched. I think I'm up at season 6 now. But for the purposes of today, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and watch that first season and talk about it here for the video, because it is it's a quick non-committal thing of a few hours to crank it out. But all in all, I think it lays a groundwork for a show that it really really capitalizes on starting in season 2. So if you were to start and watch through The Office and you've never seen it before, skipping the first season wouldn't be a bad thing. It is the kind of thing you can go and watch starting at season 2 and then maybe come back to the season 1 here as like deleted scenes or something like that. I think that's maybe the better approach as opposed to starting with this, because I think if you start with the season 1 of this or with Parks and Rec, it is kind of a like, oh, that's a weird show, and they don't have the tone right yet. They don't have the what makes the show great yet. So I think skipping it and just starting right in season 2 is a perfectly valid way to go. So those are my thoughts on the first season of The Office and a little bit of The Office as a whole. Let me know what you think about the series in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.